Welcome back from Business on Sunrise Daily. Great job right there. It's time for us to switch gears. It's Thursday, so we have the former presidential media aide and host of Insight Sources joining us on the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Laolu Akande.
Good morning. Good to see you again, Kela.
Good morning. How have you been?
Well, hanging out there.
Hey, this cap, yes, is there a female version?
Well, that would be the traditional head gear that women wear that they call gele.
So if I tied a gele with it would be...
But it won't be this kind of style.
It won't be this style. There.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's festive.
Well, you know, this is how Oyo people wear their caps normally. You know.
So let's start from Oyo. That's our conversation there. You heard what the governor was saying recently, you know, about when the Stampede happened in December, of course. Right. We talked about it here. We're all very upset about it. But, you know, that dynamic about, they must be arrested and prosecuted. The organizers must be arrested and prosecuted and brought to book. It's caused different opinions about it. What do you think about it on a broader scale? Are there disadvantages towards prosecuting these people?
Well, no, I think it's very clear that we should apply the law, you know, equally at all times. We don't often do that, you know. We use, you know, the people that hold the reins use a bit of discretion here and there. And that is why people then have the expectation that, okay, maybe here you should use discretion, maybe you should use other means. But my personal view on what had happened in Ibadan is that, look, yeah, I mean, there are different levels of responsibility. You know, let a court process, a transparent court process, let it sort out the matter. You know, the government have taken, I think, about 3 of them, including Mr. Orizomi and Amsat, and the former
princess.
Wife of the Oni, and I think the principal of the school. They've charged them to court. You know, let that process go on. What I wasn't really clear about is whether this offense was bailable or not. And I think the judge is going to make a determination on that next week. But I think, yeah, you know, we should test the rule of law, but we shouldn't also give an excuse for the responsibility of the state. You know, yes, those organizers plan the events; they are supposed to do their due diligence. But it will be interesting to find out at what point did the state itself got notice about what happened and what were their own plans, and then what are you know, and I'm not saying up or down whatever it is, but I'm saying that, you know, that is also part of what should be in the public domain. We should be discussing it. That, I mean, yes,
the Commissioner of Police in Abuja, you know, in an interview he had on one of our programs on Dateline Abuja, I remember listening to him very carefully when he said, "Look, we don't have to be told to show up when we see a gathering."
Yeah.
And he said, like, because the same Stampede happened at the Holy Trinity Church here, and he said, listen, that how they even got to know about it was that his men were on patrol, and they saw people gathering like that with that large crowd, and saw that it was getting out of control. So while his men were trying to keep order in the place, you know, they radioed in for backup. Unfortunately, a lot of things had happened before they got there. You know, so that dynamic, does that play out in Oyo State as well? You know,
yeah. So we don't know exactly. We don't have that kind of detail. I'm not sure that the commissioner in Oyo State has been able to feed us that kind of detail. But I think, you know, it will be useful, and I'm sure, I imagine that all these things will come out in the courts because, you know, I mean, so those 3 people, they have gotten some very notable lawyers. And they will be pushing, I imagine that they will be pushing the responsibility of the state. There's actually a video that is trending on social media. We don't know whether it is authentic, that shows that the queen, you know, the former queen, had actually held a meeting with a state government official where they were even very excited about the idea of what she was trying to do. I don't think there is any doubt as to the intention, you know, of the queen, the former queen, to do something that is clearly humanitarian and in support of people like Uri Yomi, you know. But I think it is the question of due diligence. Now, the state has held the three of them responsible, you know, and I think they do have some responsibility to discharge. But the state itself, the state government itself, is not entirely free of responsibility. But
let's move on to other states. Zamfara, the bandits are imposing levies on communities. The National Assembly is also going to be part of what we talk about, but I want to be able to talk about the security situation in Zamfara state as well. This was something that I think at the time when the head of the miners in Zamfara was on this program, I said, oh, look, they've lifted the ban. Oh, it's going to be great. We're going to do it. On some level, I was waiting, hold on, is everything in place? Because we do know the dynamics in this state. You know, now the bandits are imposing levies on communities, and it's not the first time. We've actually heard that they've done this before. What can be done? It almost feels as though the governor does his best, the Minister of State for Defense does his own bit, everyone tries, but then something always happens.
Well, you know, so the issue of security is generally, whether it's national or at the state level, you know, is that, so you have to, the government has to get it right all the time. Do you understand? The bandits or the terrorists or the insurgents, all they need is just one opportunity to show that government didn't get it right. So it's always a very difficult situation, which is why, you know, we go back to the basics that, look, we have too many ungoverned spaces, you know, especially in a place like Zamfara, which is quite massive, you know, and I know that the governor has, you know, has raised hell, you know, actually even on channels that says that you can solve the problem, and then he has later come to say that, yes, he's getting a bit of cooperation from the federal government. We just have to be more nimble about this thing, and then persistent about it, consistent about it. You know, it's the only way to sort it out. We must have that collaboration between the federal and state government, especially in a place like Zamfara. Now, don't forget that the federal government just lifted the ban on that was imposed, I think, during the Buhari administration, you know, with a no-fly zone and all of those restrictions. I think they've just been lifted recently. Now we don't know whether there's a connection between that and what is happening there. It just tells us that we haven't really sorted out the problem. Another state assembly member in Borno just, you know, made the news yesterday and said that there are still 2 local governments in Borno that are still being held by Boko Haram. You know, as a matter of fact, I think to the speaker. You know, so we still have these pockets of insecurity in few places, and it just tells us that we haven't solved this problem. I think the Nigerian security agency, especially the military, they have done a yeoman's job, no doubt about that, but a lot still has to be done to secure this place. It goes back to what I said, that the bandits or the criminals only need to get it right once, but government must get it right all the time.
Let's move on to politics. Toby's in the news. Says his life is being threatened. And I remember when he brought out that New Year message, you know, listening to Mr. Moka's response to that message, you know, it made a lot of us raise eyebrows. Like, you do know the ramifications of what you're saying. If this man sneezes too hard, they're going to say it's you who did it. You know, so this issue of him saying that he was threatened, you know, and all this brouhaha. And, you know, and people, I think in a few programs, we've had some pundits say, look, that people who speak for the president actually need to learn how to do this properly, so you do not cause more harm than good, or put yourself in a situation where everyone is now looking at you like you've done something wrong, because the man says he's being threatened. So everyone starts to look at you who seemed like you made a threat. You know, what do you make of that situation?
Honestly, you know, my take about this is that it's just a storm in a teacup. It's, you know, this.
It's not a big deal. You know, it's the man says his life is being threatened.
You know, I don't think that the life of Peter Obi is threatened at all. You know, and I say that with all sense of responsibility. And if his life is going to be threatened, it's not going to be from Mr. Moka. You know, but I concede that, yes, you know, we all have to be careful the way we speak in the public. But I don't think that you can sustain an argument for a considerable amount of time that Peter Obi's life in this country is threatened. Peter Obi goes all over the place very freely. I think we're just making a big deal. I think there's too much drama around this thing. And I think, it just tells us that we don't pay attention to the big issues. First and foremost, we don't have a serious opposition in Nigeria today. And it's such a shame, and it is because of that absence that stuff like this becomes the talking point. If we had a serious opposition, that they are doing their work diligently, that they are holding the feet of the government to the fire, who would be bothering themselves about what Mr. Moka has to say? We won't even get to that point. PDP, no serious opposition. LP, totally disorganized. Mr. Obi himself cannot even corral his party members in the National Assembly to toe a very decent straight line. So this just comes like, so we are not doing what we're supposed to do. Let us catch on this to eat back at government. I don't see any serious threat to Mr. Peter Obi. Come on, let's come of it and get serious, ladies and gentlemen.
You are going to trend. I can tell you for free.
No, but it's just what it is. I honestly, there are more important things. Have we fixed Labour Party? Who is the chairman of Labour Party? Why do you have all the members of a good number of Labour Party people defecting? Nigerians, 6 million Nigerians went behind Labour Party. Is this how to manage it?
We're going to have that conversation about political parties and what they stand for in a bit. But Ayo has a few questions for you.
Well, I think we should just go there because one is wondering how, because it will seem, Mr. Akande, that individuals are stronger than in institutions in some cases, political parties. Which day was it, Kayla, we were talking about how political parties are funded? And we, of course, realize, and it is something Mr. Akande also is probably aware of, you may want to speak to, how politicals are funded depends largely on who has the largest voice or loudest voice in the room. So when you're talking about the Labour Party as opposed to Mr. Peter Obi, the question we want to ask is, aren't we using medication for someone else's headache?
Okay, so quite a few things, Ayo, that you've raised there. But let's talk about the funding of the political parties. As you well know, what we now have is a system where the parties are being funded by essentially few people. Parties are being funded especially also from the kind of outrageous amounts of money that they charge people who want to run. Parties are being funded by the government of the day, and that totally distorts, party democracy. We used to have a situation in this country in the Second Republic, and I've heard you, Hayo, talked about this even as early as this week, where members contribute it's the members that fund the parties. And when you have that kind of a situation, the chances of internal party democracy rises, above the kind of very, incredible, laughable party operations that we have in this country, where it's essentially just a few people running the show. So I think that is the part of conversation that we need to have in this country, how it is that the party democracy has been destroyed. Party democracy in Nigeria has been totally banalized, and what we are running is special purpose vehicles just to win elections. Look at all the parties, APC, PDP, LP, all kinds of crises. They are not even holding their the bodies, the constitutional bodies of the party, NEC, NWC, you don't hear a lot of what they are doing. There is even a disconnect in the case of APC, a disconnect between the party and the government.
And that's one of the
disconnect. How is it?
Yes. My apologies. And that's really, where this whole conversation is going, because that is the reason, for instance, that, as you said earlier, Mr. Morka's voice as opposed to that of the party speaking, or Mr. Peter Obi as opposed to that of the party speaking. Over the years, we only knew of one or two persons who lead each of these parties, but there is always a spokesperson for the political parties. And you also spoken about the absence of a strong opposition in the country. I'm not sure, but please speak to it. How does that help or harm our democracy? Because I'm not sure that those 80 or 70-something other political parties are aware of the fact that maybe they don't even know that there should be strong opposition parties that's supposed to call attention of governments on a daily basis, on a frequent basis, to issues that concern the people.
Yeah, so it's just a complete breakdown of the system. Because what we have, for the most part, and we must make the point, because we still have very decent people, a sprinkle of them in the political process. But what we have, for the most part, the dominant aspect of it is that many of the people that are in politics, they see it as their own opportunity to get ahead. It's more about personal aggrandizement. And that goes against the grain of political parties representing something. So today, in a place like National Assembly, where you expect, an active, a varied, vibrant opposition, there is none. You know why? Because all of them are united, for the most part, on getting whatever the perks are. And that's what they are interested in. So that's unity of, look, let's do it together, let's get whatever we can get together. That is now stronger than whatever it is that parties are supposed to represent. So whether it's PDP, whether it's APC, whether it's LP, we don't even have any ideological separation anymore. The only ideology that unites them is the ideology of let's take care of ourselves. And this is so sad. This is so sad.
So who should be
what we're going to have?
Yeah. Who should be responsible for calling us back? I don't know, for lack of a better word.
Well, we must understand how this started, especially in the Fourth Republic. This started with during the time of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. We must hold him responsible because he was the one that made a mincemeat of internal party democracy. And over that, since then, other people have built on the foundations that he laid. So we have to go back and try to trace our steps backward. And I think that may have to do with quite a bit of the electoral reforms and other constitutional reforms, if we are able to do that, to strengthen these things again and say, look, a political party must they must represent something. There must be an ideological identity for the party. I remember it was Mr. Osita Okechukwu, who was on Inside Sources a couple weeks back, who said that when APC was being formed, some of them tried to say that, look, if somebody is coming from another party to join APC, they have to stay maybe a year or two or so before they can run for office or they can be appointed. That was defeated. So that it turns out that everybody that APC was supposed to edge out joined, and you couldn't see any difference anymore. Today, we can't differentiate between APC and PDP, and sadly, even with LP. So we have to sit down and say, look, how do we fix this? And last point, Ayo, I have discovered that change is not going to happen from the politicians. The politicians ain't going to fix this because it benefits them. The solution must come outside of the political process. Otherwise, We are stuck with these guys.
Okay, one other, perhaps one call to action, so to speak, even for the politicians, would be an example of something that is happening in Zamfara, where bandits, we hear, are imposing levies on communities. Do you think it will be a good idea for any one of us to say that any legislator representing any community where there is any form of insecurity should be sanctioned?
Oh, well, I mean, so the legislators are not, I don't think that would be fair.
I mean, they are representatives of the people. I understand you, but they are representatives of the people. They should be able to represent, because some of these issues have gone on for too long.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, yeah, I mean, I do understand how that drastic steps might have to be taken, but I think we should hold the people who are running the security responsible the most.
Many of these issues, Mr. Akande, I apologize. Many of these issues, from what we know, what we have heard, even from the Chief of Defense Staff, they are political. Many of these insecurity issues are political. That's why I'm suggesting, I'm thinking, maybe if we should begin to ask them questions. Look, these things shouldn't be happening in your environment, in your local government. Even governors say that some of these insecurity issues are political.
I mean, I agree that that they have to take their responsibilities more seriously, and we should try to see how we can hold their feet to the fire. But I don't think it will be fair on them if we focus on them and don't focus on the people that have direct control of national security. That's why the idea of state police is very important, so that we can shift some of the blame away from the federal government and begin to deal with the people in the states, if you get my point.
I mean, if we bring, I think I agree with Ayo. We don't agree with you on this one. and the reason is, if there was some kind of sanction
on the legislator,
he will be very vocal. And he'll be in his hometown a little bit more.
My problem is
if he sees a strange person in his community, he will start to shout because he doesn't want to be held responsible.
But first of all, you know, a federal legislator will be based in Abuja for a good amount of time.
And he should be going home.
You know, well, yeah, he should be. You know, but he's not going to be able to be on the ground. And then it's really, you know, yeah, these guys don't measure up in a lot of ways. You know, I'm the first one to say that. But I don't think it will be fair on them to hold them responsible, because they don't have the powers to make it happen. Yes, they have the voice, and they should use their voice. I agree entirely with both of you on that. Yes. They should use their voices. They should speak louder. They should raise hell.
Yes.
You know, in the assemblies.
Raise hell.
They should raise hell.
Exactly.
You know, but we shouldn't punish them because they don't hold the reins.
Okay. Well, Mr. Laolu Akande, that is where we have to wrap it up with you. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Former presidential media aide, Laolu Akande, for being with us on the program. We have quite a number of messages, and we made commitments yesterday. So let's fulfill some of those promises. It will never be said that we didn't keep our word. Nia Folabi yesterday sent us this message. She said Nigerians should be disappointed with the AEDC MD's response that customers should see the act of blackout due to plant relocation as a sacrifice. He didn't like that at all. Festus Akimboyewa goes up next. He says, sad that the theft of manhole covers is increasing at an alarming rate in our country. Anyone arrested for stealing and buying stolen manhole covers should be tried for attempted murder, because missing manhole covers can cause deaths. Ayo, what are you looking at?
Well, right now, the only one that I'm interested in is from I would have said I'll pick it from this morning, but again, Ella, our time is up because there is news in the same studio on the hour. But we'll take more, hopefully, before the program begins tomorrow, hopefully. But then, hey, have a wonderful rest of your productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Thank you all so much for being with us on the program. I'm Kayla Nagwa.